somewhere between $5,000 and $40,000. That is what the chinking industry charges to fix a problem that a clay and lime mixture solved permanently 200 years ago. If you own a log cabin or any log structure where the joint material has cracked or pulled away, the ratio has been buried for decades, and there is one ingredient in the original log cabin chinking repair formula, something available at any farm supply store for under $20, that almost nobody outside the Appalachian tradition still knows about. That ingredient is coming. First, understand what it costs to bury it. Here is what sits inside your walls right now. Every log structure in America built or re-chinked after the 1930s almost certainly carries Portland cement packed into its joints, and Portland cement gets sold to you as the modern improvement. In practice, it is the documented reason logs rot. Portland cement shrinks as it cures. Cracks form. Moisture enters those cracks and sits directly against the wood fiber. Contractors press wire mesh into the joints as a base for the cement, nailing it straight into the logs. The nails pull. The daub opens further. The wire rusts, bleeds into the wood, and the logs begin to fail from the inside while the exterior still looks like a wall. That is not a side effect. That is the recorded failure pattern. John VanArsdall, a log structure restorer with 25 years of documented experience, described it plainly in a 2014 account. The methods of attaching wire mesh using nails cause the daubing to crack, draw moisture, and begin the rust cycle that destroys the logs beneath. VanArsdall has spent a career reversing what Portland cement did to structures that stood without complaint before it arrived. Read that sentence again and ask yourself who exactly was being protected. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. Before Portland cement became the American default in the early 20th century, every log structure across Appalachia relied on a two-layer system developed across generations of mountain building. The outer layer was chinking, wood blocks or stones wedged firmly into the gap. The inner layer was daubing, a wet mortar of clay, lime, sand, and fiber, troweled in by hand. The system moved with the wood, because logs expand in summer and contract in winter, and the traditional daub absorbed that movement, breathed with the wood, and repaired itself between seasons. The Portland cement replacement did none of those things. The USDA Forest Service eventually documented this directly. The document is called Dovetails and Broadaxes, Hands-on Log Cabin Preservation, held in the Forest Service's own archive. It states that Portland cement in log building applications tends to shrink, develop hairline cracks, and retain moisture, all of which cause damage to the logs themselves. The U.S. General Services Administration went further in its technical standard on historic masonry repointing, Procedure 1100, recommending lime mortars over Portland cement, on the grounds that lime mortars are more permeable, expand slightly during curing, resist shrinkage cracking, and are more durable than generally recognized. The National Park Service reaches the same conclusion in Preservation Brief 2, their primary federal document on repointing historic masonry, which specifically identifies lime-based mortars as the appropriate choice for historic structures and warns against the use of Portland cement mixes in older buildings. All three documents sit on federal servers. Not one of them gets handed to you when you call a chinking contractor. This is where the story turns. Now, if you are thinking this only applies to someone building a new cabin from raw timber, stay with me, because this next part is written for you specifically. Any log home, timber cabin, or wood-framed outbuilding where the joint material has hardened, cracked, or pulled away from the wood can be repaired this weekend without a contractor, without specialized tools, and without a permit in most jurisdictions. Type S hydrated lime, that is ASTMC 207. If you want to look it up, the same standard the GSA references directly, available at any hardware or farm supply store, ran $15 to $20 for a 50-pound bag as of 2024. Masonry sand runs $5 to $8 per bag. A trowel, a hawkboard, and a mixing bucket complete the list. Mix 1 part lime to 2 parts sand, add clay if your local soil carries clay content, and introduce water slowly until the mix holds its shape on the trowel without slumping. Press it firmly into the joint, making contact with the wood on both sides, and smooth it flush. Carbonation begins within hours and continues for weeks. That mix costs roughly 15 cents per linear foot. A comparable synthetic polymer sealant, the kind sold under brand names like re-chink or log jam, runs over $1.20 per linear foot. Across a full cabin, that gap becomes thousands of dollars, and on a large structure it reaches the figure at the top of this video. But the detail I promised, the specific ingredient that separates a daub lasting 20 years from one lasting 200, has not arrived yet. Keep that in mind as I tell you how far back this method goes. The Appalachian tradition drew from German and Scandinavian log building practices carried to America in the 18th century, specifically through communities like the Pennsylvania Dutch and Moravian settlers, who brought Northern European timber framing and lime mortar knowledge into the mountain interior. Those traditions themselves drew from methods centuries older. Lime mortar entered recorded construction practice as far back as 200 BCE in Roman building, and structures built with Roman lime pozzolan mixes remain structurally intact after 2,000 years. The Foxfire organization in Rabun County, Georgia, documented the Appalachian form of this knowledge across 12 published volumes, preserving it against the same commercial displacement this channel covers. Surviving examples include the Robert Cleveland Log House in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and the David House at the Mountain Farm Museum inside Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Those buildings carry no Portland cement in their joints. They have not rotted. The difference is a material costing $20. The difference is a ratio that takes 4 minutes to learn. The difference is the single ingredient that almost no modern guide, no contractor, and no synthetic product instruction sheet will ever name, because naming it makes the commercial product unnecessary. The ingredient is animal hair. Historic daubing analysis consistently identifies fibrous binders, specifically horsehair or cattle hair, worked into the clay and lime base before application. The National Park Service confirms this in Preservation Brief 2, noting that animal hair fiber in historic mortars reduces shrinkage cracking and provides tensile reinforcement across the joint. The hair performs exactly the function that steel fiber serves in modern reinforced concrete. It bridges micro cracks before they can propagate through the joint. When a seam begins to open under thermal movement, the hair holds the matrix together across the gap. The lime continues its carbonation cycle, and the crack closes back toward itself as moisture and carbon dioxide work through the mix. The joint survives another freeze-thaw cycle rather than failing in it. Now, here is the honesty. Lime-based daubing takes more preparation than a polymer sealant from a squeeze bottle, and the mix must be correct. Some traditional recipes include a small amount of Portland cement for workability, and the GSA standard is precise on this point. No more than 1 part Portland cement to 2 parts lime. Exceed that ratio and you return to the failure pattern. Modern contractors will tell you that synthetic chinking, products like re-chink, is easier to apply and expands reliably with the wood. The application argument is fair. The long-term outcome argument is not. A lime-pointed church in Roanoke, Virginia, went 120 years without repointing, and the original mix remained fully functional. The contractor who sells you synthetic chinking will be back in 20 years. The correct lime mix will not need him. This knowledge is 300 years old in this region and 2,000 years old on this continent. Nobody improved it out of existence. It was priced out of the catalog. If you are the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly buried to protect someone else's invoice, you already know what to do. Subscribe so the next piece reaches you. Next video covers a traditional Appalachian water sourcing method that predates municipal systems by a century and a half. There is one specific sight reading technique inside that method, documented in a single cooperative extension bulletin from the 1940s, that modern well drilling guides leave out entirely, and that omission is why most attempts fail. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Tell me in the comments where your log structure sits, what condition the existing chinking is in, and whether you have ever received a re-chinking quote above $5,000. Every comment gets read. That information builds the record this audience is assembling together.